here. I thought talking to myself. What's up, Maddie? Maddie's got a question about local landing pages. If I'm creating a landing page for a lot of surrounding town cities, do I need to get backlinks for all these individually? Yes, you do. Pretty simple question, pretty simple answer. Anything with SEO. This is kind of good, Maddie. I'm glad that you asked this question because somebody tagged me on a comment on LinkedIn today about something that John Mueller said about guest posts. And basically they kind of wanted to know my opinion on it and what I thought. And what I responded was, I don't really necessarily get down this far in the weeds anymore. And a lot of folks shouldn't either. Because again, just like I was talking about how I was distracted this morning from some stress that was happening in my life, a lot of these things are just distractions. Like, you know how to do SEO. Maddie, the fact that you're asking that question means that you already know in your mind that you should probably get links for them. I understand that sometimes you need validation. I'm happy to validate for you. Absolutely, yes. But a lot of things are just noise and distraction. A lot of people want to get into debates about certain things that there's no right answer to, right? I mean, Maddie, for context on that too, I know why you're asking it. It is a good question. I'll give you that. I'm just using this as a spring point to a larger thing that I'm kind of making a point on, which is there is no right or wrong answer. We don't know, right? The only thing that we can do is do everything, one, to the best of our ability, do everything by best practices, don't cut corners, don't do anything black hat or anything that would be egregiously putting somebody else's website in harm. If it's your own website, do whatever you want. But when we're working with clients, you always want to make sure that we're just putting them first and making sure that their needs are taken care of and we're not putting them in any sort of harm. So Maddie, to answer your question, I'll answer this the right way. Based on my experience, yes, absolutely. We definitely want to, links are important. Brian Cato says it depends with most SEO, it depends. Exactly, right? There's no right or wrong answer to these things. I always default to best practices. And the reason why I do that too, I guess the bigger point that I'm trying to make here is that there's so much other stuff that we can be doing with our time that's not so focused down on the weeds, right? When we're looking at this, especially from doing SEO for hundreds, if not thousands of websites over the last 10 years and working with clients, is that, again, we follow the best practices and we let the chips fall where they're made because there's so many things outside of our control. There's so many things that we don't even know. Google doesn't even know what's happening with the algorithm. That do what you got to do the best practices, get it done to the best of your ability, and then let's focus on other things. Let's focus on bigger things. Let's focus on other big rocks, other big problems that we can be handling. So Maddie, to answer your question, yes, links matter for every page, especially ones that you're trying to rank. Didi just asked, how do you deal with employee turnover? Seems pretty common for agencies. That's a great question. The way that we deal with it is, number one, we're very fortunate in that we haven't had to deal with much turnover. And I believe, and I was actually listening to a really good book. It's called The Road Less Stupid. I'll have to maybe check that up. But basically, I posted on my Instagram the other day. It's all about kind of making the right decisions within your business. And part of what they spoke about was culture. And the common misconception that culture is about the perks and the benefits that you give to your staff, and that will attract people and reduce turnover, right? Like Google puts, like, I don't know, beanbags and free stuff and all this type of stuff. At the end of the day, that doesn't necessarily build culture. That kind of builds perks and actually promotes kind of a wrong type of thing, right? If you think about what a workplace is actual for work, and then let people go home and have their leisure time, or give them an environment where they're working less and they have more time to induce leisure, instead of being like, hey, we're going to make you work so much that we're giving you all these perks. I'm going off on a tangent, DD, but the point I'm trying to make here is that it's really through culture, right? So the way that I look at it, and the people that I like to try and bring in, are people that are like-minded. If you go across and look at anyone who works for either one of our companies, they all come from different places. They all come from different ethnicities and backgrounds and countries and languages. But one thing that they all have in common is that they all want to learn and grow as people. And the culture that we like to try and foster here is that we're going to provide you a place that is going to challenge you, that's going to push you, that's going to let you take charge and build on your role here and make it feel like it's your own, right? The first thing that I tell all of my new employees is, from here on out, I work for you. I am at service to you. Whatever you need, don't hesitate to ask. I'm here to help you get to where you want to be. And also understanding where each employee wants to be is super important, because again, just like I said, how culture is not built based on beanbag chairs and free coffee, it is unique to that person. Everyone's different, motivated by different things. So part of the ways that you can reduce turnover is understanding what motivates people and bringing people in that fit with the culture that you're trying to provide. So for example, again, I look for folks that are looking for that type of autonomy, that type of growth, and not necessarily from a money point of view too, right? Like from a challenge point of view, right? From a learning point of view, from again, like the same kind of things that motivate me. So I look for people that share a lot of the same mindsets that I do when it comes to it. It doesn't matter where they are. It doesn't matter where they're from, what language they speak. Experience obviously helps, but a lot of the times, especially in this game, like we all learn this stuff online for free at some point, right? So there's no reason why you can't train people on specific skill sets, especially when it comes to SEO. But really the thing that's the most important is that mindset, that understanding of who they are and where they want to go, and you fostering and helping them grow and develop into that. And I think if you were to go around and ask anyone who works for me or has worked for me, they would agree with that. That we're obviously all remote. They could probably get better pay somewhere else, but something that we give them, something that I pride myself in giving them is giving them a piece of the business to manage and make their own, and then build people underneath them, build a team, basically learn everything that they want to learn from coming and working here. So we haven't had, and knock on wood, in the past 2.5, 3 years, we haven't had anyone leave. Except for a contractor that might ghost here and there. But for the most part, if you work for us full time, everyone's here. And I believe it's because of the culture that we've created and fostered, but also the culture that we've created and fostered, and then hiring people into that culture that vibe by that, right? Because there's a lot of people out there who, again, just want to go and, sit on a beanbag chair and, be in the office for 12 hours. That's cool. That's not what I want for my people, because that's not what I want for myself, right? I want to use my work to do something that I'm passionate about, to build something that I love, create an environment where people want to come in and help build that vision and that dream, but also feel like it's partially theirs as well. So that's how I'd answer that, Didi. It is common with agencies. And again, it's because a lot of agencies go through either rapid growth periods where they're just hiring anyone they can. They're hiring based on skill set as opposed to a culture fit, as opposed to what that person wants, or those people are attracted because of the perks. They're attracted because you give them unlimited time off, and then you get pissed off because they take unlimited time off, right? So these are the types of things that you start to think about more as you grow and as you bring people on. It's tough to do that with your first couple of people, but now that we're pushing 15 folks or so, I think across, maybe even 20 across our companies, these are the things that really matter in terms of, I know that I've taken these companies as far as I can personally take them. The next step is 100% through those people. So I want to motivate those people. I want to empower those people to want to take the company forward as well, because I can't do it myself. There's only so much I can do. So that's what I would say, DD, in terms of dealing with employee turnover. Give me a thumbs up if that helped out. You already said thanks. No problem, DD. Jeff asked, can you go over brand building and the importance of building a brand and building user experience moving forward? Thanks for all you do. Thank you, Jeff. I can, absolutely. I mean, brand to me is super important, especially in the space that we operate in, because the Blueprint is essentially an info product, right? This is a consulting and coaching and training product that, if looked at by certain people, can put us into certain categories with kind of like the make money online scammers, right? I'm not calling them scammers. That's just the perception or the brand that a lot of people have of those folks. So for us here at the Blueprint especially, brand is especially important, because I'm constantly fighting against biases that people have when you advertise, and when a person gets on camera and advertise and pitches on camera and runs webinar funnels and runs offers. It can put us into a certain category with unsavory folks, if you will. So brand for us is super important. So the way that we combat that is through marketing and really through content and doing stuff like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have to do this. I enjoy doing it because I love all of you, and I always value the fact that people want to engage and talk, and I'll always give my time to do that. But these are the things that you also have to do if you want to really build a brand. So I think brand is also relative to what space you're in. So in the Blueprint, that's what's really important, right? Fostering these communities, giving our time, showing that we care, getting people like Ann and Elena involved, and getting them communicating and seeing what people need. That's, to me, is how a brand in this space is built. It's through trust, it's through communication, it's through time, it's through effort, and it's not just constantly asking people to buy stuff, because I know that if you are generous with your time and let us use your time, that will help you, and I really believe that, right? So, but when you compare that to another company like Webris, brand is much different, right? Brand is more about reputation. It's about who you've worked with and who you've helped and the results that you've gotten for them. That factors into the Blueprint as well, but it's at the forefront for our SEO agency. So in that space, I'm still creating a lot of content, and that content is going to be much more focused on results and who we've helped and how we've helped them, and really digging in and showing and being generous there as well. So I think in anywhere in the B2B space, really it does hinge on content, but knowing how to create the right type of content. I actually had this conversation with a coaching client yesterday about, he was talking about how he's starting to create like top funnel content, about like marketing tips and stuff like that, which is great. I'm not telling him not to, but understanding that content is only relevant based on where you are, and it's relative based on where you are. He's just getting started. He's only got a handful of clients. So, I was coaching him on the type of content that he should be creating that's going to help him to be more sales focused and get clients in while still helping, right? It's all about helping. It's all about showing value. And what I told him is that you should put together a 20-minute kind of like VSL webinar that you can use as somewhat of an opt-in or somewhat of a gated content that you can gate on your website or use as sales collateral, marketing collateral to help educate people throughout the process. But really the key to that is how good it is and how much you show and how much you give throughout that process. So I hope that answers your question, Jeff. In the B2B space, it's always going to be about some form of content, but knowing where you are, knowing who your customer is, knowing what pain points they're having, and knowing how to build the right type of content for where they are, and really, again, helping them, it's super important. I think in the e-com and DTC space, it's different, right? It's going to be a little bit more, I don't want to say logo based, but it's a little bit more about kind of like perception and like vibe that you give off. Whereas B2B, it's much more, because we're talking about much higher ticket clients. The nurturing process is much longer, right? Like it's going to take you a lot longer to close a lead and attract a lead and really get them familiar with you. So that's why content is so important in the B2B space. Not that it's not important in e-com, but I would make the argument that e-com is going to be a little bit more quick. Like think Instagram, TikTok style content, that's providing a different type of value, a different type of interest versus B2B content, which is going to be very deep in nurturing in its nature. So let me know if that helped out, Jeff. Give me a thumbs up in here. So Arez just asked, hey Ryan, I have to rank for keywords for oversized hoodie and oversized t-shirt for the new website clothing brand. Problem is the first page is full of big brands like Zara, H&M, Primark. What do you recommend in such situation? I would advertise. Like, don't try and fit a square peg in a round hole. That's all I have to say about that, really. There are, if this is your website, it's something that I would say work on over a long period of time, just continuously in the background, get the right type of links, continue building supporting content, continuously understanding, how your pages should look, just kind of basic SEO stuff. It's just going to take a long time, but also understanding like you're never going to outrank H&M and Zara unless they go out of business, unless everyone on the first page goes out of business, right? So that's why I kind of gave you that answer, which is not everyone can rank. That's just the nature of the game. That's life. It's kind of like in business, like not everyone is going to get to the top. You've got to kind of be smart and you've got to be willing to adapt and bend, and be agile throughout the process if you want to, continuously grow and get to the top. So I would say that in that situation, that SEO should not be the primary focus. If you're working with a client who's already signed, I would say just focus on content, focus on more mid and top funnel keywords that you can get to rank them for. Really sell them on the fact that you're going to be using content as a qualifier to getting people to the website. So for example, right, if we're talking about like 10 best hoodies for winter time, I don't know, for fall, whatever it is, like you can put together content like that. I don't do much e-com, but put together content like that that's going to rank for like fall hoodies, because that has a better chance of ranking than sometimes like if Zara doesn't have a page about fall hoodies and H&M. So you've got to look for like the gaps in the market of where people are not and where they're not creating, and then create content like written long form blog content, video content around that, and then use that as a mechanism and an attraction method to find gaps in the SERPs. And if somebody's searching for best hoodies for fall, then they're qualified to be a customer at that store because you sell them, right? So basically what you want to do is you want to take a little bit more of an integrated cross-channel approach and be like, hey, look, client, this is what it is. Here's the data. Like you can't argue with this. You're just not going to outrank these big brands. Here's why. They have links, they have content, they have brand, they got everything. And this is where they are. This is where you are. With that being said, there's other avenues that we can take, right? Number one would be integrating more of a content approach with your advertising. Here's what I mean by that, client. What I mean is we can build content based on the gaps in the SERPs where Zara and H&M are not present, because they don't have product pages for everything. So we can find out what those gaps are in terms of keywords, and we can build content around it. Or we could even create category pages on your website around it. That could be another option, right? Once we do that, we're going to work on ranking that and then, getting traffic to those pages through Google. Because once we do that, then we're going to slap them with your Facebook pixel, and we're going to hit them with remarketing ads all across the web. That's how we're going to convert them into customers. So you've got to be a little bit mindful. Obviously, this helps during the pitch process, or as if this is an existing client, sometimes leaders at agencies can put you in a precarious position. But this is why, being a well-rounded marketer and not just an SEO, and this is something that I really harp on a lot, especially recently, is SEOs being a little bit more well-rounded, because SEO is just not for everyone anymore. It's not a good fit for every brand because of situations like this. We are not, and this is another big issue that I have with just the SEO mindset in general, is like people go out and like complain about it. Like, number one, Google doesn't care. The world doesn't care. The market doesn't care. Like, save your complaints. Nobody cares. And also too, is that, like, those brands are just better results. Like, if you have a Shopify store that's brand new and you're selling a couple hoodies, like, why do you think that you should outrank them? It's a better result for users. So like, SEOs oftentimes always forget that they're Google users and will sit there and complain about shitty results, but then try and rank a website that's really not qualified for that keyword. So you have to be a marketer, not an SEO, and you've got to be able to think on your feet strategically. You've got to understand how business and the internet works, and it's not just about ranking for that one keyword. And if that's what you're still selling, it's a tough business model to run. So a lot about what we talk about in Platinum, which is our coaching consulting program, is really understanding what your market position is in terms of what kind of you offer, but more importantly, like, what are the needs of that customer, right? So Erez, going back to this, right? Let's say that you specifically work with, smaller e-commerce websites like this. That's a pain point for them, right? And that's something that you can play on, right? We want to play on pain points and those feelings. So for example, Erez, I don't know if you're just drop me a comment, Erez, are you the owner, or is this a client? Just to give me context so I can give you better advice. But if this is the type of client that you are specialized in working with, right? Like small e-commerce shops on Shopify doing less than 500K, right? That's fine. They need help, right? They need SEO help. They need whatever it is help that they can get. You have to understand what their pain points are. One of their pain points could be, hey, you're not going to okay, good, Erez, perfect, you're the owner. So like, I'm talking to you now as an owner, as I would give advice to a client. You're not going to outrank those websites, right? And that's fine. That's not a problem. But what you have to understand is that there's other avenues, and you have to know what those other avenues are. And I know that's why you're asking me. I'm not trying to be snide to you. I'm trying to give you good advice. And again, just applying this to kind of more folks who are working with clients, because most folks here are working with clients, is understanding that pain point. So for example, Erez, if I was pitching you as a client, I would play on that. I would be like, hey, look, I feel your pain. Like, I know what it's like to get outranked by the big guys and like do all this work and never move up. However, there's certain things that I know that they don't. And one of those things is that I know that Zara and H&M, they're never going to create specific pages dedicated from a content point of view or hyper targeted for smaller keywords, because they rank for everything. So they're not paying attention. But what we can do is we can come in the back door. We can find out the keyword gaps that they're not competing for, that we can then bend and mold to your website. Fall hoodies, I don't know, hoodies for football games, whatever it may be. If they're not talking about those keywords, they're not ranking for them. So we can come in and create something and fill those gaps, right? So, whether you're working with clients or doing this for yourself, I'm speaking for more folks working with clients, is that understanding what those pain points are, speaking to them, addressing them, and then telling them, hey, I know this is where you are here, Rez. By understanding and identifying what your problems are and then doing these specific things, I'm going to take you here. And here is more traffic, more sales. But how you get there is different every time. And again, this is a huge fault that SEOs fall into, is they think they're going to do the same thing every time, from just kind of like an SEO point of view. And and let me unpack that a little bit more, because I always talk about process and doing the same thing over and over again. What I'm saying is that you should be doing the same thing over and over again for the same type of client. So if I'm only working with Shopify stores that are doing less than 500K that sell men's fashion, right, or men's, menswear, then I can build a very specific process to help them get to where they want to be, which is more traffic and sales, which is different than what I would pitch to Zara, right? Zara is going to be technical SEO, keyword research, and internal linking, right? They don't need links, they don't need content, they're killing it. They need more kind of like cleanups and optimization. But someone like Erez, what he needs is a different type of strategy. So he needs like a keyword gap analysis. He needs to find the gaps where the brands are not playing on that pain point. And then we're going to build content around that. And then we're going to set up remarketing ads for him to convert that traffic. So you can see how we're still getting him to where he needs to be, which is more traffic and sales, but we're massaging that service and our offer based on what he needs, right? Not based on what we can offer. So this is a key point of what we talk about in Platinum, is understanding who your core customer is, what their pain points are, and how you can help them. and building something and offer that's specifically for them. Because I know if I walk and I pitch a res that and everyone else is just being like, no, we're going to rank you, then he's going to be like, no, I'm going Ryan, because he knows what the fuck he's talking about, because he knows what I'm feeling. He knows my pain points, and he addressed them in his pitch and in his offer. And it just makes it a much easier process. I hope that answered your question, Rez. I know I kind of went off and talked more about this for agencies, but I had to kind of bring that back home for my people in here. So Maddie just asked, when you started doing SEO, what was your process in terms of using spreadsheets, keyword mapping, research, and so on? I noticed you have a very intricate workload from the website training on your websites. I've always been a very process-focused person, Maddie. My first working experience job was for like business process re-engineering. So I've always looked at business in terms of process and understood that at the biggest and highest level, it's process. It's running a lot of these companies, and just people and software are then helping to manage those processes. So my process is just always like, I've just always kind of started on a whiteboard and just like I just described to a res, like what problem are we solving and how do we need to solve that? What are like the 3 to 5 things that we need to do, right? So problem, specific problem for a specific type of customer. Coffee shops can't get people into their doors right now, right? How do we help them? How do we get them to where they need to be, which is more people walking the doors? I just literally break that down into 3 to 5 things, what I need to do, and then breaking those off into like more specific processes. So when I go back to a res example, right, like keyword gap analysis to find gaps, content creation, set up remarketing ads, those then can split off into more specific processes. Keyword gap analysis, I'm going to pull in data from here. I'm then going to review them to crosswalk it against blah, blah, blah. You see what I'm saying, right? So like the spreadsheets and keyword mapping and so on, those are just layers on top of process. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people will look at tools and spreadsheets as automation, but those only automate an existing process. And that's a huge problem that everyone has when it comes to businesses. They look at tools as automation solutions when really they're process automators. They're not solution automators, if that makes sense. Hopefully that helps. Let me know if that helped, Maddie. Fernando asked, how did you come up with the name Webrus? Any tips on coming up with a business name? I bought an expired domain like 8 years ago. I don't know. It's stupid. Webrus.org. This was like back in the day when buying domains, thanks Alex Becker, was like the recommended SEO tactic. So that's how I came up with it. I bought the domain and inherited it. Any tips with coming up with a business name? I don't. I usually actually will talk to this guy, at UX Hacks, David Martin, super creative person. If it's not a skill set of yours, definitely seek out creative help, even just to have like an hour, 20-minute 20 or an hour-minute conversation. You can buy people's time on like Clarity or something like that. I would just come up with a list of names. I'm not the right person to ask that. I have a certain creative side to me, but coming up with creative things like that is not necessarily my jam. So whenever it comes to stuff like this, and a lot of these questions too, like when people ask me very specific SEO questions, I usually respond by saying, I don't really do SEO anymore. It's not really what I do. I have a team now that does it for me, and I learn and through them. But I'm not down in the weeds. I'll connect you with the right person. Hopefully that helped, Fernando. I know it's kind of a bad answer, but if y'all got more questions, fire away. I still got some more time. I'm happy to give it to y'all. Whatever you guys need. Didi said, SEO Twitter. If I can write a cool script with Python, I cannot rank anyone. Yeah, exactly. SEO Twitter is out of control. What's up, Keith? SEO Twitter is the root of a lot of my frustrations sometimes. It's also why a lot of people kind of view me as an asshole, because I have a different thought process for stuff. But I don't care what people think, and neither should you. What do you got, Keith? You got any questions? Give me some, y'all. Nobody? I'm going to cut it if nobody answers, if nobody asks in the next minute. Word. Well, I appreciate all you guys coming out. Spend a little time with us this afternoon. Hopefully this was helpful for you. I just always want to end this. That's what's up, Keith. Appreciate you being here anyways. Just end this with a little call to action of, if you want more help, if you want to, get help with your SEO, go ahead, Jason. What's up, dude? How's it going? I was actually going to email you this week. What do you got for me? Well, I'll finish my call to action while he types it out. But basically, if you guys need more help, this is literally what we do. Our coaching program is a 12-week coaching program. We've got some very specific videos that will help you out with our 3 pillars: positioning, productization, and marketing. Very short amount of video learning. It's mostly one-on-one help. We work with you through a lot of these things, or really anything else. I actually just spent an hour with a coaching client today talking about cold outreach for sales. So that was what he wanted to talk about. So that's what we worked on. I'm helping him build the process. We're going through all of his email templates, follow-ups. You're getting a lot of my time and my team's time to help you work through very specific problems. Like when we do these things, it's more generic. I don't have anything to look at, but beforehand with our coaching program, you'll share a document with us. We'll literally take a look at whatever you want: deliverables, project plans, ads, whatever you need. We're essentially kind of like, an outsourced CMO, if you will, that's going to work with you hands-on for 12 months to help you grow your business. Jason said, who it going? I'm assuming you meant how it going. How's it going? Why did you change the strategy to sprints? We did that. Thanks, Keith. The templates are gold. We changed around because, long story short, I sold my agency in 2018, was with that agency for 2 years, untangled the agreement in late 2019, going into 2020. We all know what happened in 2020. And, when we kind of like re-rolled out our agency very slowly, I quickly realized that like the traditional offer that we had just wasn't sticking very well to the market right now. I'm always somebody who's looking for a better mousetrap without having to rebuild the mousetrap, meaning how can I look at what we already have and make it better? Right. This is a lot of what we work on with coaching too, is like, a lot of people come into coaching and being like, oh, I don't want to fire my people. I'm like, I would never tell you to fire people, but I am going to tell you that you can have them be doing something that's better for them and better for the company, by just relooking and reworking your processes and what you're doing. So it's very similar with our service offering. We looked at it and we said, there's not really a market for 12-month contracts right now. I mean, not that you shouldn't do them. We still will sell them when it's a good fit, but only when it's a good fit for them, right? Like I talk about this a lot. It's always about them and what they need. Just basically what we found was that everyone still needs SEO help, but they just needed it in a different fashion. And the thing is that we're still selling the exact same thing. We didn't change our project plan. We still did the exact same thing, that literally the exact same thing that's in the blueprint training. It's funny, actually, we hired a salesperson who went through the blueprint training. He's now our salesperson at Weberus. And when we were going through his onboarding and looking at the deliverables, he's like, hold on, I just need to stop this for a second. He's like, you mean to tell me that everything that you guys are doing at Weberus is the exact same stuff in the blueprint? I'm like, bro, the exact same thing. Like the exact same thing. We're literally doing the same thing. It's just about positioning, right? It's part marketing and it's part business strategy, right? And it's part having a pulse on the market and your customer and what they want and what they need, and listening, really, essentially I was just listening to what people want. I also put myself in the shoes now that we're hiring contractors and hiring vendors, for what we want. Like I probably wouldn't want to sign a 12-month contract right now. The market up until really the past couple of months has been very unsettled, but like you still got to run a business, and so do I. So you've got to figure something out. So we moved to the sprint model. It's been very effective for us, but we're already thinking about our next step, right? I was talking to my team about this past week at the agency. We're crushing it with these sprints. We're growing significantly. We're hiring, we're signing more clients. It's awesome. But I already know too that like we're going to cap out probably like $1 million or $2 million in revenue, or we're just going to have to sell so much work that, there's not really a straight avenue to raise our prices. So I'm already thinking about what the next step is. So for us, the next step is we primarily focus on B2B clients, and I'm putting together a much more robust offer for B2B clients. It's kind of going to be like a hybrid between what's in the blueprint and what we do at Weber. So like somewhat of a done with you training model in terms of giving them information up front, like, helping them to build stuff internally and build the capabilities internally, but then also letting us do a lot of the work that they don't have in-house. So for example, right, one of the things that we're going to definitely do is set up Facebook ads for people, but we're not going to manage them on an ongoing basis. It's just too much work. So we're going to help them to either hire somebody internally and train them on Facebook ads, because it's going to be cheaper than paying an agency, or use somebody that they already have, or use the ads person that they already have, and we're going to train them on a better system. But we're also going to help them like hands-on to set up the ads for a short period of time, if that makes sense, right? So that's just something inherently when you ask yourself, like, how much would a company be willing to pay for that? It's a lot, like if you go out and pay an agency to do, enterprise lead gen on Facebook, we're talking about, you're going to be spending a couple $100,000 a year. So we're then able to find that price point that's appropriate based on, what they're expecting to pay for alternate options based on the pain that they're feeling. So the loss of customers, the FOMO that they're getting, the pain of having to pay an agency, we're able to then come in and match that to that price point. And it's going to be a whole system too. It's not just Facebook ads. It's going to be SEO is going to be in that. Well, you're going to do a website review. We're basically going to do kind of like what I would call like a very intensive hands-on B2B strategy for marketing. Like, here's where you are. Here's how you get to tripling your leads per month. It's going to be like a technical review of the website, and I'm not calling it SEO because there's multiple facets in there, some UX, some copywriting, some architecture stuff. Then there's going to be a lot of content in there because B2B websites need content. And then there's going to be an element of advertising and promotion. And then in between that is also going to be teaching them and coaching them along the way so we don't have to do and deliver everything, right? This is another big thing that we talk a lot about in Platinum. Y'all should really consider joining up because these are the types of things that I'm able to work through one-on-one with you guys to help you understand, like, who's your target customer? How do we define that person? What do they look like? What pain points are they having? How can we develop an offer that they care about? And then how do we build a service that's specifically going to satiate that offer and drive results for them consistently? And then do that over and over and over again. And then take that offer and then market the hell out of it, just like you guys see me doing all the time. That's really the core of Platinum and what we can do. So hopefully that helps, Jason. Kind of a long-winded answer on why we changed away from sprints and why just some of the results that we've been having based on it. It's been really good. But again, I'm always thinking about the next step, and I encourage you guys to do that as well. It doesn't just stop with where you're at. You always got to be thinking about the next couple of steps and ultimately how you're going to get there. And again, that's something I can help you guys with. Arez has another question. I don't really see it happening here in the I don't really have another question. I have another question. I don't see it happening in the Netherlands, but I noticed many agency owners make videos on YouTube. Is this mainly for lead generation, or is extra focus on it's for lead generation? I do YouTube, and it's for attention, awareness, reach, and leads. It's the number one. YouTube is the number one driver of pretty much everything for all of our businesses. Tremendous platform that is still kind of in its infancy. It's getting very crowded in our space. I'm fortunate that I figured it out about 5 years ago. I've been doing it for 6 years now. So YouTube is incredibly impactful for us, and that's why they do it. Ahmad asks, do you have a sheets-like project plan? Do you have a sheets like a project plan for sprint milestones? No, we just basically, it's super easy. This is why we actually don't have project or account managers at the agency right now, because when we sell a sprint, it's 3 lines in a project plan, and it's the same thing over and over again. So there's no milestones per se, because the entire sprint is the milestone. And because we're doing them all in less than a month, there's not really a need for it, and that really just comes in the sales and marketing process and educating folks on that. So we've really reduced the need for it. It's actually a great model. Keith says, do you recommend showing pricing on your agency website or not, Ryan? That's a really good question, Keith. I recommend that you don't. Actually talked about this with a Platinum client today, where I don't recommend that you do it because when you present pricing, like, pricing is something that's relative, right? I look at $10,000. I don't mean this in a bad way. I look at $10,000 in terms of an investment into marketing or my business as nothing. I see it as nothing. I see it, it's funny because we spent almost 20 grand getting a book written. And like, I've gotten so many DMs from people being like, you're stupid, you're crazy. I'm like, 20 grand is nothing. You know how much money that book has driven into our business? Like, you're stupid. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I have to be more understanding, and that money is relative to people, right? Based on where you are, based on your relationship with money. So I don't like to present pricing anymore. We tested it at Webrus, but it was the wrong decision to put it on the website, because that's a conversation for B2B that should happen during, like, we're not a software company, right? And our pricing can change based on the needs and the scope of the client. And the needs and scope of the client is going to be based on the pains that they're having. So if we're able to anchor that price against the pain point, we're able to better present that. And I can make 10K seem like nothing based on the return that they're going to get for that 10K. But if they go to the website and they see it's going to cost them 10K for SEO, then they're going to come to their own conclusions about what that is and the results that they're going to get. So I would personally say hide pricing until it's pricing in this game is for sales, not for marketing, right? So so there's ways that you can qualify people ahead of time, so they're not wasting your time. Just on our agency's form, it says, if we're able to present you the solution to your problems, would you be willing to invest at least 10K into organic presence? Yes or no? That just kind of lets people know, like, okay, it's going to be in this range, right? And it just lets them kind of like us really to qualify leads pretty quickly. Yeah, so I would say hold off on pricing because you want to have the conversation with people and you want to sell them, right? Like, there's another thing too, is that, like, part of this game is selling people on you, on your services, on your results, on the fact that you can get them to where they need to be. And if they understand and they think that you can get them to where they need to be, then they'll have the same mindset as me that 10K, 20K, 30K is nothing and it's worth it because it's an investment in growth, not an investment in whatever they think it is before you've actually had a conversation with them. So that's what I would say, Keith. Cool. Any more questions from folks? Anything I can do for y'all? Good to see that you bought the book and then went into the blueprint. It's exactly what we wanted to happen, and it's worked very well for us. If y'all have any more questions, let me know. I'm going to give it another minute or so here to ask more questions. Y'all are welcome. You're welcome for my time. Pay it forward. The only thing I ask is that I'm not going to ask you to buy anything from us, but I will ask, and I know a lot of people do this, if you see people asking about SEO trainings or programs or coaching in Facebook groups or on Twitter, plug us. Like, it means a lot to us. It does a lot for us, for our brand, for our reputation. It really helps us to get to the next level. I appreciate all that you guys do for us and keeping the positivity. Yeah, so just let people know, man. If you're not going to pay us with money, pay us with social equity. We'll take that as well. It's accepted here. So yeah, I'm going to jump off. I appreciate all of y'all. 10 more clients and I'll upgrade to platinum. You got it, Keith. Or if you get into platinum, we'll help you get to 10 clients. How do you feel about that? Yeah, I appreciate all your time. I appreciate all the positive sentiments here. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, y'all. Have a great day.